And I pulled my car over into a parking lot. I put it in park, shut off the engine, and I said, God, I am not leaving here until you answer this. That either you're real and you're going to speak to me right now, or you're not real, and we're going to close this discussion and I'll find something else. Hey friend, Tom Elie here, 1 Minute Witness, introducing a new podcast to you, hoping this will encourage you to relax and enjoy sharing your faith. And everyone that I know that has ever tried to share their faith had to overcome their fears. And same with me. And I had to come to the spot where God told me, Tom, you don't have a fear problem, you have a compassion problem. And when I realized my fears were up here, but my compassion was down here. And as my compassion grew for others, wow, the fear started to leave. And so happy to be with you today. 1minutewitness.org is a place where you can learn to share your faith with confidence and compassion. But I was reading a scripture this morning in the book of Daniel as I'm walking through my regular devotions. And I came across this question that I remember when I was in college. A college friend asked me this question, and I was probably 20 years old. He says, Tom, if God never answered another prayer for you, would he be worthy of all your praise? I thought, wow, what a question. And I want to say the right answer, yes, of course. But the real answer is, will you still serve him wholeheartedly if he never does anything? And the real answer is, well, I'd like to, but is Calvary enough? If God never did another thing for me, is forgiveness and salvation enough? Is total deliverance and protection and guidance enough? Is knowing and serving the God of the whole universe, the King of the universe, is that enough? Or do I have a kind of faith that God always has to do something more for me? And if he doesn't show up, if he doesn't answer my prayers, then I get discouraged. I was 16 years old. I remember I was in a parking lot and I had my little Chevy 2 car with the orange furry dash and all this, the baby moon hubcaps and all this that dates me about 100 years ago. But anyways, for some reason, the enemy was just hitting me left and right. Now, I grew up in a godly home. I was the youth leader. I loved Jesus, Bible quiz team, all that. But I tell you what, I made a really good choice as a 16-year-old because Satan was coming in and was trying to pull me. And he was taking this weird question of, is God really real? And I pulled my car over into a parking lot. I put it in park, shut off the engine, and I said, God, I am not leaving here until you answer this. That either you're real and you're going to speak to me right now, or you're not real, and we're going to close this discussion and I'll find something else. But God, I know you're real, but I'm not going to let the enemy harass me over this question anymore. I'm not going to let this go one more day, one more week, one more year, 2 years. Today we're settling it. And I said, God, show me, are you real? And I started praying. And I really expected like an audible voice. I was 16 years old, an audible voice. God did show me some kind of sign. And nothing happened. But then I remembered when I was 13 years old, I was up at youth camp. And we had the gospel message, and then they would invite kids to the altar back in the back prayer room. And I remember God touched me so deeply that night. And I was kneeling in the back prayer room, and tears were streaming down my face. And everybody else had left, and I was all alone. And I was just sobbing in the presence of God, knowing his presence was so real. And I was loving it. And God brought me to that memory. And he said, Tom, was I real back then? Well, yeah, God, you were really real. No one could tell me that was just my emotions. I knew your presence. He says, well, am I real even when you don't feel my presence? Now, some guy said in a joking way, he said, well, someone said, I can't believe in God because I can't see him and I can't feel him. And the guy said, well, I tell you what, I believe that Home Depot has employees, but I'd never see them, and everybody laughs. But can you only believe what you can see? Of course not. There's a zillion things we can't see. The atoms, the cell phone waves, everything's going. Here's the point. I made a covenant with God. I decided at that moment that was enough. And God, if I never feel you again, if I never have to visit this conversation again, I know you're real, and I'm going to follow you with all my life, all my heart, forever. And I made that covenant that day. And I walked across the street into the grocery store. And back then they had these little rubber mats that you had to step on them and then the door opened. And I remember the door opened. That's how fast it happened. And Satan was right there again with another doubt and haranguing me with something else. And I said, nope, get lost, devil. This counter is closed. We are not doing this anymore. And that was it. And I made a covenant with God, and I've leaned upon that many times. Nope, not going there anymore. But I was reading in Daniel, and I was reading the story of the three men, Daniel, Shadrach, and Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men were thrown into the furnace. Because why? Because they had decided to follow God no matter what the cost. Now Nebuchadnezzar had set up this big statue of himself, and he said, I want everybody to worship me. Call everybody. And everybody came and bowed down and worshiped except these three men. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't do it. And so they went and got him. And the king said, I'm going to give you one more chance. You can bow now. And they said, this is what they said. Daniel 3, 16 through 18, New Living Translation. It says, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, get that. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. In other words, God is going to save us, but even if he doesn't, we're not bowing. Wow, what courage. And I want to tell you today that even if he doesn't save you, your God, my God, is not on trial. Even if he doesn't save me, my faith can still be strong. Even if he doesn't save me, my God does not have to prove himself to me. Even if he doesn't save me, God is God all by himself. He has need of nothing. Even if he doesn't save me, he is still the great I am, and I am still the small I am not. Even if he doesn't save me, it's all about him and it's not about me. And even if he doesn't save me, I can still be a strong witness for Jesus.